Hey everyone, and welcome to my channel. Star Wars fans like you and me have accepted that for some time now, Disney's Star Wars trilogy has no relevance to anything we previously knew as Star Wars. Those of us who choose to ignore this trilogy as canon are doing so because you, Disney and Lucasfilm, have destroyed characters from the original and prequel trilogies while wiping the expanded universe from canon. So to Star Wars fans all over, I say, whatever you choose to consider canon going forward is up to you. For other fans, it took a bit longer to realize the game Disney was playing, but still came to the same conclusion, that the Disney Star Wars trilogy is irrelevant. After attacking fans for 2 years, calling them bigoted and misogynist trolls because they didn't like your opinion on a movie, mainstream news outlets are finally admitting that Star Wars is performing nowhere near where it should be under Disney. The Rise of Skywalker's box office number, although it eventually hit $1 billion, should be a huge warning sign for Disney. This number is seriously underwhelming for the final film in a Star Wars saga. For comparison, it currently sits just under Rogue One, which earned $1.056 billion. Now, as for who is to blame for the fall of Star Wars, that lies with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy.
Some of us think we're really great people, but in the real world we're not.
I don't mean to reopen old wounds, but for those of us who love George Lucas's Star Wars and what he created, this is really important to show.
Make sure that they still continue to live in the way that you created them, and that the universe of Star Wars continues to grow.
George Lucas gave Disney his sequel trilogy outline, which they bought, but never implemented.
I have story treatments of 7, 8, and 9 and a bunch of other movies, and obviously we have hundreds of books and comics and everything you could possibly imagine.
Kathleen Kennedy gave Rian Johnson complete writing and directorial autonomy with The Last Jedi, and watching him utterly destroy everything we knew and loved as Star Wars was a heart-wrenching moment. There was no regard for story, history, canon, or even the hero of the original trilogy, Luke Skywalker.
I almost had to think of Luke as another character. Maybe he's Jake Skywalker. He's not my Luke Skywalker.
Kathleen Kennedy has struggled to retain directors for her Star Wars movies for years now. When solo directors Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were fired, the pair said they had zero creative freedom and were placed under extreme scheduling constraints. That's strange, as we know Rian Johnson had complete directing and writing freedom on The Last Jedi. I wonder why. Maybe it's because he was willing to abandon everything that had come before, just as Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm wanted.
I mean, it says right in the script, forget the past, kill it if you have to. And you're doing a pretty good job.
I'm trying.
When asked about Solo, Kennedy said, "If all you're doing is playing it safe, trying to make the same movie over and over again, that's when the audiences say, oh, this is just a money-making machine." But that's not what you did, Kathleen. There is a way to make different movies, but also staying true to the story, characters, and source material that George Lucas handed you on a $4 billion plate. All you had to do was not abandon everything he created and just use the stories that he gave you.
I think it's vitally important to anything we create that we hold on to the spirit of what started all of this.
Instead, you use Star Wars to create your own agenda-driven fantasy and destroy everything that made Star Wars what it is. The next mess Kennedy left was the firing of Colin Trevorrow, the director for the final film in the Disney trilogy. This stemmed from Trevorrow wanting to keep Luke Skywalker alive in his Episode 9 script. However, Kathleen Kennedy was set on Rian Johnson killing Jake Skywalker in The Last Jedi. This script debacle only meant one thing: Lucasfilm never had a plan for this trilogy. Now before you say, but George Lucas didn't have a plan for the original Star Wars, that's because when he made the original movie, he wasn't sure if it was going to resonate with people and if he was going to have the funding to make a sequel. The difference is that when Disney bought the franchise, they acquired an already established lore with any number of stories to choose from. Instead, they chose to undo and make key elements of the previous 2 trilogies irrelevant. The director of The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams, was brought back to scramble together a story to execute the final order of the now Palpatine saga. Abrams brought back Emperor Palpatine, even after Ian McDiarmid, who plays Palpatine, was told by George Lucas, no, his character was dead after Return of the Jedi. Apparently, even JJ had trouble getting his final cut through the swath of imbeciles at Lucasfilm who tried to insert their own agendas. At a meeting, he allegedly said, "Why don't you just put written and directed by Lucasfilm?" The infamous "They Fly Now" trailer, as seen here, drew heavy criticism from fans who know their Star Wars lore, but also the actors apparently know more about Star Wars than the people creating these films.
In the latest Rise of Skywalker clip released, the group realizes that the stormtroopers have jetpacks and can fly now. What was your first reaction upon seeing that?
He forgot. But what if that was the first time they used them? They've been using them since the Clone Wars.
And when asked what he thought of the ending of the 40-year saga, Anthony Daniels, who plays C-3PO, said this.
After 40 years, this is it? What are you thinking?
After 40 years, this is it? What are you thinking? While the episode 9 drama was going on, news broke that Game of Thrones directors David Benioff and D.B. Weiss had quit their own Star Wars trilogy.
We're talking about a trilogy, not a movie. Not a movie. We're talking about a trilogy.
It seems that Lucasfilm's story creativity only works with directors who unquestionably toe the Kathleen Kennedy line, making it hard for creative directors to see any way of achieving a complete and coherent movie. The small beacon of light that we do have is The Mandalorian. Jon Favreau made a decent enough fun story that draws on previous canon, while also introducing interesting characters like Baby Yoda and Moff Gideon, who wields a weapon we saw in the Clone Wars. Disney, look what happens when you use Star Wars canon as the basis for your story, and directors who know how to execute a vision like Deborah Chow. You end up with a decent amount of people actually liking your content. Disney and Lucasfilm, this is your mea culpa moment. Are you going to continue down the dark and shattered path of Kathleen Kennedy, in the hope that people will turn out for your baseless story in inept movies? Or will you, Bob Iger, do the right thing and put Kathleen Kennedy back in the executive producer role where she always should have been? Or just let her go completely and start fresh? Recanonize the expanded universe, carry on the stories that George Lucas gave you, and make them in the way that he originally intended. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. Hit the like button, make sure you subscribe for more Star Wars and pop culture news. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, what Disney's going to do going forward. Share this one around, and I'll see you soon.
You know, I sort of moved that treasure trove of stories and various things to Kathy, and I have complete confidence that she's going to take them and make great movies.